ora, no mai haere mai ngā mihi o te ata nei. Ko tēnei tētahi toi ako wānanga ki te ipurangi nei, no reira no mai haere mai. Tēreira kei konei tētahi tangata, tētahi tāne humari e mahi ana ki te āhuatanga o te wai I tōna ake rohe, I enei wā kia whakapua wai te āhuatanga o te taiao mō ngā uri e whakaheke. Nō reira tēnā koutou, no mai haere mai. Hello, welcome to this Toi Ako webinar where we have a fantastic opportunity to share some awesome kōrero, but also connecting with some amazing people who are around the motu, doing all sorts of things in their own way and in their own places to, in my humble opinion, make this world a better place, but more specifically improve the hauora of our people here in New Zealand. So welcome everybody. Without further ado, I'll just quickly pass the mic over to Cameron here. Kia ora, Cameron.
Tēnā koe hariata. Tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai haere mai ki tā kōrero o tōku mahi. Ko ai au, ko Cameron Ormsby tōku ingoa, ko Ngāti Maniapoto tōku iwi, ko Ngāti Tawaha tōku Hapū, ko Porongi tōku maunga, ko Puni tōku awa, ko Rā Kaunui tōku marae, ko Tainui tōku waka. Tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora to you all. So my name's Cameron Ormsby. Thank you, Hariata, for the introduction. Don't know if I'm awesome or amazing, but I'll try and share a little bit about my mahi. So who I am, I live in the beautiful Hawke's Bay. I've got two beautiful little children and a beautiful partner who's from Ngāti Kahununu in Maitahu, that's Hinawai. And for my mahi, I work for the District Health Board here. I work in our health protection team. I guess in terms of experience and qualifications, I've done a Bachelor of Science, and I've got a few extra qualifications in environmental health and environmental science. So I guess that's part of to those who are listening, I just want to share with you a little bit about my mahi and the lens that I put on, I guess, hauora tangata relating to te taiao, the environment, and how it interrelates to our health, and some of the mahi I've been doing outside of mahi, essentially with my whānau, to try and add our little bit through practical initiatives to try and improve and protect our environment and those things that are intrinsically important to us as people, and particularly Māori. And so welcome to you all. I've got a bit of a presentation, so I might just start cracking through this. So I'll have a crack at it. Just opening it up now. Maybe that didn't work. This should work. Can't buy. So anyway, I guess I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about some of the recent mahi we've been doing with our whānau, particularly in the, I guess, the management of fresh water. We've been working actively with our whānau and our regional councils and our city councils to try and, I guess, improve how things are, because we see, a gradual decline of our water quality, of the state of our environment, and we sort of thought, what can we do? What can we do ourselves in a practical capacity to add our little bit? So this is a part of what I'm going to talk to you now, is sort of sharing what we've done, and it's I'm going to talk to you about the kaitiakitanga o te whenua ki Ahuriri in Napier, and the awa called Tūtaekurī, which is our awa that flows through. And we've got a bit of a goal that we want to try and protect and enhance that awa, and I'll take you on our journey. So the whakapapa of the area, this is this is my wife's, I'm from Auckland originally. I moved down here after I met her at Otago University and fell in love. And we've made our home in Napier. So she's kahununu, and she's the ahika. Her whānau's been there 700 years plus where we live now. So she's continuing that on, and hopefully our children will too. So the maunga was o Tātara, very significant site. The awa is Tūtaekurī. This is a braided river, gravel. Well, it's a mixture of braided river, but it's gravel that flows from the Hawke ranges in the hills right to the coast. Iwi is Ngāti Kahununu, and there are 4 hapū that our tamariki, my wife, whakapapa to, and that's Ngāti Pāro, Ngāti Hinipare, Ngāti Mahu, and Ngai Tāwhao, and they're all in the Napier area, and yeah, it's pretty strong whānau up there. That's our whānau at the marae, and that's at the base now. It's also at the base of Tātara maunga. So yeah, you'll see some dirty power lines in the left-hand corner. That's sort of a sad story about how really important sites for whānau just got rolled over the old Public Works Act, which some of you might be familiar with. And our marae are Waiahiki, Mōtio, Timikara, and Wharerangi. So we've got 4 marae, 4 hapū, and yeah, pretty strong whānau presence, and we're all based around the awa and the area of Napier. So you'll see in blue, that's our 4 marae. We mainly associate with Waiahiki marae, but whānau is also from Mōtio in particular, but everyone's related. And you can see that blue line that comes from the hills up at the Hawke ranges. And yeah, I mean, you'll see what we have on that map there is there's a lot of light green, and that light green is pretty much how land's been modified. The dark green is native trees, native bush, a good picture of that. But you can see, it doesn't indicate it well, but it's a real farming catchment. So yeah, our river's under a bit of pressure. So yeah, so I guess there's a bit of whakapapa and kōrero of how things were in the past. The name Tūtaekurī, you think of Tūtae, do number 1 and 2s. Kuri's a dog. It came from, the name came from when the whānau lived at Tātara at the base of, I guess, just up from the river, right next to it. The whānau were moving in from Parongaho to the south. They were really struggling for kai. They didn't have enough food. They were starving. But then my wife's whānau in the day, killed 70 pairs of their much-loved dogs. They lived with them to feed these people and keep them alive. They threw the guts in the river, and that's where the name Tūtaekurī comes from. So there's a real backstory of aroha, caring for others, and cherishing, I guess, both the awa, but people, and yeah, so I guess it's part of what today is just trying to share the continuation of that. And that's just a local whakatauaki for the awa. And my wife's hapū Ngāti Pāro, maranga ra kia hiwa rā, auwe, rāpua e ngā mea ngāro e. So rise up, be watchful, and search after our lost treasures. So yeah, I guess the importance of whakatauaki in our mahi is, the old people had things and set sort of like policy statements in today's language of how we should behave and what we should use as a vision for our actions, and we sort of use these whakatauaki for some of the mahi that we've done, which I'll start getting into sharing with you. It's a bit of a platform and a ground. So coming back to our awa, what are some of our challenges? Like all our awas, they're not, you can no longer just take a glass down there and fill it up with water and drink away safely. They've got a lot of pressures from, hill country, and you can see those hills just bleeding silt and sediment from erosion, and that creates real problems. And that's mainly from where a whole lot of forestry is being cleared and land that shouldn't be farmed, it just can't handle it. So that's one problem. And again, our river and flood. This is at Tūtaekurī Awa at Waiheke Bridge, and that's full of silt and sediment, so it's brown as anything. And again, it doesn't show it well, but what that is on the bank is gravel, but you're finding muds and all that silt just forming a mud bank, and it's a gravel river. But so what happens when you get mud covering all your gravels, all the life that lives in them, all the little creatures, little fish, they get smothered, and that sort of creates a base ecosystem layer to disappear in that site. And yeah, so where you get silt from is, as in the previous photo, where you get land clearance, and it's a bit of an issue. So these are the things we came to see over the last few years that we weren't happy with. We didn't feel how it was being managed was sufficient. And this is another problem where we have extensive gravel extraction from our river. And again, if you take gravel out, you take away, I guess, the natural whakapapa of the awa and how it forms and maintains itself and supplies gravel throughout it. We also face pressures to come, where I think in the last couple of years we've had real interest from oil magnates wanting to frack our ground, or considering fracking in the Hawke's Bay area. And our whānau have historically used springs and wells to draw water up from the ground. And this is a new thing, I guess a thing that we need to try and protect our taiao, our environment, from, because profits go offshore and people often soak up the cost. And again, water extraction, these are pivot irrigators, where the river has water being sucked out from it all the time, because Hawke's Bay is a strong agricultural area with lots of fruit trees and wine and sheep and beef like the rest of New Zealand, but that means we don't have a lot of water in the river, particularly in summer. And this is a big problem where we have a lot of stock getting into our awa, and particularly doing tūtai and crapping on riverbanks, and that's introducing a whole lot of nutrients, a whole lot of fecal bacteria, which means it's no longer safe to swim. And sadly, our regional council here in Hawke's Bay, you're not breaking the law if your cattle is going through a river. So that means, one cow can produce enough poos for 60 people. So you got say 100 cows in a river, you've got close to 600 people crapping straight into it. So we're creating little mini Ganges. So these are the sorts of stresses on our river. Lots of algal growth, which happens when you get nutrients from runoff and warm conditions, low river flows. So a river, much like a lot of rivers, soaks up with, grows algae and becomes slimy and yucky. Lots of chemicals being used around agriculture and horticulture. So but those are some of the things we know are happening. So what we did, our little whānau, we wanted to set a plan for our awa, which sort of changed the direction that we've just talked about in the past. So we thought, hey, let's bring our whānau together, let's bring our 4 Hapū and our 4 marae together to create a plan for our awa that changes that direction. So, we started to set down what our goals were, and we try to keep them, I guess, broad but definable. So we we want more native birds, beautiful tui, we want them. We want our whānau and our tamariki to be brought up by the river, for that to be the playground, for that to be the, instead of going to the council playground, you come to the awa. We want our whānau to be able to have safe drinking water, whether we're taking it from the ground. We want plenty of safe and, I guess, sufficient amounts of water. And I guess, part of my mahi recently has been with Havelock North, where we've had quite a few thousand people become sick from the water supply there, and that's a good example of the relationship between drinking water and your environment and how it can be susceptible to becoming contaminated, and without without suitable controls or, I guess, protection, people's health can be a big problem. And something else, mahinga kai, a tuna, we're big tuna harvesters. We love tuna. It's a real staple of our whānau's diet. And again, kai in the marine environment, there's a direct relationship between what kai this is what last week we went out and got a whole lot of kai moana. We do it regularly. We try and live off the land as much as we can. But yeah, there's a direct relationship between land use and how it affects the river, and again what flows out to our coasts and our reefs, and the habitats they inhabit. And yeah, that's just our mara. I don't know why I've chucked it in, but we're proud of it. And that's more of our kai we're gathering. But it's also for, this is my little boy Keeper. It's also for, I guess, our next generation. Trying to, I guess, firstly provide an environment that looks after them, but also, I guess, creates a bit of leadership so that when our hips and knees give out, then they can be coming through and taking hold and leading others in a practical way, how you can better protect your environment, particularly from, I guess, a kaupapa Māori lens. Kaitiakitanga, just a bit of demonstration of mana. So what we did, we talked about what our problems are, what our goals were, and what we thought our actions, what we could do in a practical capacity. And well, first of all, you got to have a plan. So it actually took us a couple of years to write a management plan, and it set out what our goals and aspirations were for the awa, and we saw the challenges of current policies and rules from the regional council and how they were lacking. They weren't creating a direction that would realise our aspirations. We used Te Mana Atua, the four key atua or gods of, I guess, the Māori worldview, and we try to describe environmental effects and what we wanted under the banners of Tangaroa, Tani Mahuta, Tawhiri Mātia, and Ranginui. So you're thinking of water, the air, the forest and bird life, and the ground, the health of the papa. So we use the principle of Māori as our, I guess, underlying principle, and all these things are interconnected. They're all interrelated, and you can't look at them in isolation. And I think that's often the difference between, I guess, the worldview I'm getting when I'm working with councils around policies. They don't look at the interconnectedness of things, the whole picture, I guess, relationship. And I guess Māori helps to describe that, the intrinsic relationship between water quality, between the quality of land, forests, and all these things. There's not a direct relationship. So we use the principle of Māori. If something will protect and enhance Māori, then it's worth doing. If it doesn't, then it needs to be done differently. So we set a policy and we set a plan. It took us 2 years, lots of meetings. It's just hard yakka. But we created a plan for our awa that was to the regional council, and that got accepted. And it was something that created a whole lot of, I guess, strategic direction for we wanted our council to follow. But saying that, plans are plans, and we sort of, while we've had a good relationship with our council, people do what they do. They've got other agendas. So we thought, okay, we'll have this plan, but we'll really use that as a bit of a launching pad for to do mahi ourselves. So one of our key practical things we thought we could do was just do riparian planting, which is essentially planting native trees along the edges of the river and streams. And the reason we thought we'd do that is because trees along a river, things like flax, cabbage trees, all sorts, karamu, lots of carex grasses, they provide a natural filtering barrier between land use, particularly when you've got cattle and livestock being farmed close to rivers' edges, horticulture happening, and you get all this runoff. When you get heavy rain, it basically cleans the land of all any contaminants, be it, you know, crap on the land or nutrients like nitrates and phosphates, and by planting those barriers, you sort of intercept it, and the plant often takes up a lot of those contaminants, and it also creates a good environment for the stream edge. It creates a whole lot of shading, so the water's cooler and more conducive to our native fish and life, because that's how they evolved. They evolved with an environment that there was plenty of vegetation, plenty of cover. They like cold environments, and in summer, summer can cook. So yeah, so essentially this year we kicked off our Waiahiki project. We managed to get a bit of funding, and we got a bit of funding to plant 10,000 native trees along a key block of the river just in front of our marae. This year we cracked into it. Our goal is this is sort of where our direction was heading with the riparian planting. So that's one stream that's at a farm site that's been totally cleared. So there's, in the right hand corner, there's some small trees that have gone in. It slowly regenerates, and then you see in the bottom left hand corner what it becomes. So that crusty stream has quickly moved to a pretty flourishing, thriving environment. So yep, this is our first day. This was back in May, so we've got about 50 whānau down. A couple of my kids in there, a couple of their cousins. This is the planting day. So yeah, so we got in there and started doing a whole lot of planting. It's my partner's uncle, who's rough as guts, but he's keen as mustard into this. He's the man. And that's more whānau just doing more planting. So this is us just doing our little bit. And another project we've got into is we created a bit of a habitat at the mouth of our river to try and provide for whitebait to spawn in. Whitebait likes spawning in the saltwater edge, so it's where the tide from the ocean moves up the river on the incoming tide and takes salt water with it. So it's a mixture of fresh and salt water that's in the river, and whitebait quite like that. So they like to spawn in the grasses which are on banks' edges. So we try to create a habitat where they'd have more habitat to breed in. So this is what the site looked like before. It's a drainage channel which we knew they were breeding in, but we try to expand on it. So you can see we've got a digger in to dig out another trench. It's a digger that's excavated it. Yeah, and then we hydro-seeded it. We planted a whole lot of grasses that we know they spawn in, and we're hoping those grasses are slowly taking hold, and we're hoping in the next year or two it will create a whole lot more habitat for whitebait to spawn in. So yeah, so I guess this is just a quick little one, but we've got a bit of a dream for our whānau is to slowly work our way throughout our river and our awa, and also our moana at awhi'd to whanganui a rotu, to put in as many native trees over our lifetime. I don't know how many we're going to get. We've got a couple of thousand in there at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. Next year I think we're going to do 3,000. We've got big plans. We've got a nursery at home that's just doing about 1,000 trees. And we've got. Sorry, can you keep it quiet? I'm just in a meeting. Yeah, sorry, I'm just in a meeting room. Yeah. So that's our vision essentially. I mean, we want to build up to doing about 10,000 trees a year, and yeah. So who knows where we'll go? But that's our little bit from our little whānau. We're just a small little group doing our bit. Yeah. So when we're doing all sorts of other stuff, we've been doing some cultural monitoring with our council. Again, we did a we did a big submission against our Napier Council who had to get resource consent to discharge stormwater from the industrial estate at Napier into the estuary, which is a pretty, it's the gold standard of environments for our marine life, and huge pollution issues. And again, we didn't think what they were doing was sufficient, so we fought that. We've got quite strong environmental controls around it, and we've done a cultural monitoring project as part of consent. We were monitoring fish and cockle health for whole lots of contaminants and their abundance, and we'll be doing that for the next 12 years. We're doing all sorts of stuff. This is just our little whānau mahi in our own time. We do it for those reasons I've said before. It's just a little bit. It's just real practical things. But really, the underlying, I guess, plan is just putting native trees in the ground along river's edge, and it's pretty simple to do. It takes a bit of practice. I'm not that sharp at all, but I've managed to keep most of my trees alive that I've harvested from seed, and with a small little bit of startup cost, which I'm sure you can get. You can easily do your little bit for the environment. So I don't know. This was just sort of a little journey about what we've done the last couple of years. I mean, we love it. It's not mahi. We still have full lives in the rest of our lives. It's just something that we now do seasonally, that we're going to do every autumn, is we're going to plant as many trees as we can. If we can plant 5,000, 10,000 a year with help from our whānau and our wider community, then I think that's a life fulfilled. If we can do that for another 50 years and I die when I'm 85 and we planted, I can lie on my deathbed and know that I've done that and my whānau's done that, then I think that's a life that's fulfilled, and it's a life that's not just taken from the world, it's given back. So that's sort of my principle and my whānau's principle, and I think it's a good way to be. So I don't know if that's it's worth it, but kei te pai.
One thing that I would like to know is how can we, as a different, say if we are different communities looking at not obviously the same but similar innovations, what advice would you give to another community wanting to do something similar?
I guess try and learn from people who've done it, and I guess we're starting off and just having a crack. So we've got a Facebook page, and that's a good way to keep in touch with us. So that's Ngā Hapū, NGA space HAPU, Ngā Hapū, or as an O, Tūtaekurī, which is about TUTAEKURI. So but that's probably the best way, is just learn and ask lots of questions. There we go, that's the one. So join up like that, and there's all sorts of stuff we post regularly. But we did the same. We weren't sure what to do, we'd never grown a tree before, but we went up to Raglan to meet with a guy, Fred Lichtwark, and he's planted over 1 million trees up in Raglan Harbour and Waikato. So we sort of learned from him through small steps from a small number of people. He just turned that harbour around. It's abundant with fish now. Wow. It looks beautiful, water's blue, and so we thought, he is the man. Let's try and emulate what he's done. So we learned from him. Maybe from today, people can learn a few small things from us. But if your principle is just real simple, planting trees along waterways, then you can think, how can I do that? And you can work backwards. So, Yep.